Is it a perk to have two actors who have worked together in the past to kind of, does it cut away from all this kind of initial rehearsal time and all that kind of stuff?
We could get right to work. I mean, they didn't have to meet and get to know each other. They didn't have to meet to decide whether they would, want to work together. There was none of the foreplay that had to go into that. So we could get right to work. Yeah, it makes it easier.
And is it true that actually Clive has to thank George Clooney for the gig? Or
he does. Yeah, I mean, really, we had a party for Clayton, and the script had been around for a long time in Hollywood, and a lot of different people have been involved. And I was kind of thinking maybe I'll get to do this again. And George came up to me at a party and said, Clive Owen's here at our party. You should meet him, and you should do that movie Duplicity with him. And I was like, what? And it didn't happen that night, but I met Clive and hung out with him and realized that there was that he was perfect, that there was all this other stuff going on that I hadn't seen him do on film.
And so did you use Clive as a dangler for Julia, or was she...
No, Clive came in and read the script and really wanted, in our first conversation, I mean, it was pretty obvious where we wanted to go. So then I had to finish Clayton and be a real director, and I wrote her a love letter, and George called her, and Clive called her, and then we found out she was pregnant.
And then you had to wait.
We had to wait, yeah.
Having a movie that was successful with Michael Clayton,
right.
Was it easier for you to get funding for this one, or did you find that it was even more difficult the second time around, or once you got these stars on board?
The funding was, the funding is always, everyone's, the budget was the budget, and it's a more expensive film than Clayton, but it's the kind of movie that can sustain that. The perks were really along the way in opening doors. We were just talking about the fact you go to a location, and if you're nominated for an Academy Award, someone who might have just said, "Sorry, you can't shoot your movie here," they go, "Oh, really? Yeah, you might be able to be here." Yeah, exactly. It helped like that. It helped more like that. Little things that are important.
One of my favorite scenes in the film is this opening sequence, and it's to the point where I'm telling my friends to go watch it just for this opening sequence. So I'm just wondering what it was like to shoot. Just having Paul and Tom have this major throwdown, it cracks me up, and I just think about it, makes me like...
It was really, really cold, really, really wet, and a very long day. But at the end of it, when we realized we'd really gotten it, the ride home in the car it's one of those great feelings when you've been soaking wet and freezing your ass off all day long, but you got something.
I have to ask you, what is the impetus of where the story came from? I mean, corporate espionage and, people kind of grift each other the whole time. And
God knows I've done a lot of spy movies, and even things that aren't produced. And I met a lot of intelligence sort of people along the way as research, and all of them had gone to work privately. And when I started the conversations with this movie, it was actually with Steven Soderbergh in the very beginning, I said, man, the only thing that I know that's fresh about espionage right now is all the people that I know are going private. There's this huge industry for corporate espionage. No one's doing anything about it. It's a huge thing, and quite honestly, my big fear over the last 6 years was that someone else is going to do this project and it's going to burn my script, and no one's touched it. I feel very lucky that that we tapped into this really big, fresh thing.
A quick last question.
Yeah.
Then, having Julia and Clive speak the words that you kind of wrote and stuff, was it fun to watch them on when you're directing them and stuff? Is it one of those things where it's like a dream come true?
Yeah, it's the best. I mean, you have the two best people you could possibly imagine delivering your words. It's always a gas.